Welcome back to another episode of Gun Together Garage. Today, finally got our hands nitty gritty with the carburetor systems. Okay, so we're gonna be finally doing some tune-ups and upgrading to make this thing modern. One's gonna be starting with getting an EFI setup, Holley Sniper. I'll show you it. It's called an Xflow. That's what I got for you. Then next thing is we're gonna be upgrading the whole entire fuel system to be able to run this system. Because this isn't your normal Holley Sniper. This is more modified for a higher horsepower motor, so we're just gonna pre-prep to prep the prepping for, big block. So
Like that, they put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing.
we're gonna do that. And then, we're gonna be showing you some more around on this one that we haven't showed you guys yet, because I haven't really had to do much work on it. So this is probably the first time in probably, 7 years I've actually done heavier work on this thing, so I'm excited to see how much better, EFI is gonna go, because, carburetors, eating gas,
Right to jail.
won't be as smelly coming out of the tailpipe, so, that's also,
Right to jail, right away.
So, let's just kind of jump into it, show you what I got, what we're gonna add on to it, and then I'll show you what we got on here right now, and then we're gonna start doing a swap. So let's go ahead and jump to it and see what we get.
Believe it or not, jail, right away.
Alright, so one of the first things we're gonna do is what's gonna be the heart breather of what the fuel system's gonna be. Can't get my words out today. So the first thing is going to be is our Holley Xflow, and this is a machine baffle. If you look at a typical EFI system, like the Holley Sniper, the first ones that are rated up to 650 horsepower, it is all square here, and it has little lips that come up kind of like how this edge is here, and that's in each and every single one of these. This one was machined out for a better airflow design. And this one is also rated for 800 horsepower naturally aspirated. So we'll be able to run a decent sized big block that has a hefty cam and whatnot. That's pushing close to 700 horsepower possibly. Just depends on what we do. Even possibly a lighter styled forced induction style. So this is what our heart breather of the Dragon is going to be. This is a separate kit. It's not a master kit, but it still comes with the majority of what you need except for a fuel pump and fuel lines. So this still gives you all the wiring harnesses you're going to need. Gives you your typical gasket kit that you're going to need and your installation hardware, which we've already done one on a C10. I didn't film that one because that was before I started YouTube. And then it also gives you all the other stuff in here, which is some loom, some more wires, gives you your O2 sensor. But coming to the O2 sensor, these are only for a 2.5-inch style exhaust. So I had to go and buy one for a 3-inch exhaust from a company called Glow Shift, and that was ordered on Amazon. That was a couple bucks, maybe 20 bucks, I think. So we have that. We got our computer still. We got some more wiring and harnessing, and another temperature sensor. So we'll find a spot in my intake. So I have two different styles of temperature readings going on. I have a manual gauge and I have the electronic gauge for this. And I don't have any electric fans on there, so I don't have to worry about hooking that up. I bought another one of these intake gaskets because on here I have a spacer that helps atomize the air going down into the intake. So I bought it for that to replace, just because we're having it apart, might as well. So then what's gonna run the fuel up to the EFI, you say, huh? Glad you asked, because, well, to start off that system, I got and bought a new sending unit, but you could also do this without a return system. But I wouldn't mind to have a return, so that way it kind of recycles the fuel instead of just dumping it in. So I bought one from OER, which I don't really know in any other better brand, but it's not like we're using a fuel pump on here, on this, so it doesn't really matter which style sending unit you get. I got OER because it's supposed to be original equipment. That's what I hope. So that's going to be getting replacements. I only have a single line on this and a breather on my car. So we've got the return line now, so that way we can run another line back to recycle the fuel. And then to filter it before it goes up to the throttle body. This is probably one of the most expensive fuel filters I'm ever going to buy, but it's definitely a nice one. She's 100 micron, I believe, or 150 micron. I forget what they prefer, but it's definitely the higher micron, so that's going to be after the fuel pump. So then coming to the fuel pump, I had to buy another one because the Mallory I have won't produce enough pressure for the stuff I need, or for the pressure that I need to run this. So that one will do, I think, up to 70 psi, but it's a high flow. Got it through Summit. Wasn't the most expensive one, but it gets the job done. I've heard AM brand, so I could go with it. 400 liters per hour. All that fun jazz. So yeah, we got that. And then for a fuel pressure gauge for a regulator to make sure we're still getting good pressure, we got a 0 to 160 psi glycerin filled Holley Sniper EFI gauge that I'm going to put into my regulator, so that way I can always keep an eye on that. But there's the part number for that if you guys are looking. And then I also have a part number for this fuel pump kit. That comes with all the fittings, hardware, everything you need to do for that. There's a part number for that if you're looking for that. And this is just a typical gasket you can pick up at any hardware store. I don't think there's really a part number for it. Yeah, there's one right there. And then this, you just have to type in Xflow. There's two different styles for this. There's one that's rated for, I think, 1200 horsepower blow through power. So if you click on the one you don't want the, if you just want naturally aspirated, you'd buy this one. But there's another one. Don't worry about that one. So that's that. Let's go to our fuel system. Okay, so what we're taking off of this is we're taking off a Proform, which we've modified this one to kind of, you know, it's a Frankenstein. So we put all kinds of different parts from a Holley, new stuff from Proform. It's 750, and we upped the jets at 76 and 84 because this thing likes to pop out of the exhaust because they like to get in a little too lean. So we upgraded the jets. That way it can do all the horsepower it needs to. So that's that. But we're going to be popping this off. We're going to recycle this for our budget drag race build with the other Camaro. So we're going to pop this onto that. That way we can still reuse that. Then over here, which before you work, always disconnect your battery. We're removing, I believe, one of these fuel lines because we're not going to need two now because it's only a single inlet. But this is 3/8 high pressure line. We've had this all custom made to fit for this car, but the inlet should be similar, I believe, for how this is going to go up to it. So our pressure gauge is going to go here so we can keep an eye on that. But I believe that's all we're going to be changing up in the front here, and then we're going to have to run the wires somewhere to hide all that too, eventually, when we get to it. But that's going to be that. So then underneath, we're going to get this thing jacked up real quick. I can show you what we're going to be dropping, removing, and kind of figuring out as we go with. So let me go and get the thing lifted up and then we'll take a look. Okay, so down here, we have a little combobulation of what's going on here. We'll end up changing out where this fuel line is coming in at here, because this goes up to another fuel filter, which I believe is like a 20 micron, so that's a good pre-filter that goes to the pump, which we're probably going to reuse some of these fittings, I think, depending on what we need to do. But this is a new Mallory filter. It's 110 gallons per hour, but it's not enough to make pressure. So we have a whole system going around here that's all custom made for this. It goes up, goes around, up into another connecting up there, and then goes around here to just keep it away from the exhaust. So that's where we got all this at. Now we just got to pretty much remove all this, drop the tank down. It's pretty close to being empty. I was driving it a lot to get it all emptied out. So we're going to have to drop this down, put the new sending unit in it, and disconnect all of our wires going to it. And then we'll go from there. But that's really about all we're going to have to do. Rewire up, or we're going to have to reset up where we're going to have our pump and everything's gonna be sitting, because I'm not really sure if I'm gonna put the filter up close to the frame connectors or if I'm gonna leave it somewhere up here. I'm not sure yet. We might leave it. I don't know yet. We'll wing it out when we figure it out. But that's enough talking. I think we should get this thing started on getting apart. We'll talk about it when we get closer and ready to install some stuff. So let's go and do that. Okay, so we're currently at a standstill for a second. Don't worry. We gotta do some masterminding of figuring out a good fuel system setup that matches what we have, so that way it looks finished, everything will be done. So we gotta figure out a return line and where we're gonna put our massive fuel pump and filter. So what we're thinking, since the flow goes this way and the flow go that way, I'm gonna change out the end fitting right here to be able to connect to this 8AN. And we're just going to hardline these two together, so that way they're only like that. And we're going to figure out the 10AN that goes back here inside of the filter. But those two, we're thinking we're going to splice into here, right onto the frame rail where the fuel line is already. So we're going to have to remove this probably, get some pressure lines fitted onto here so they're at least ready for the fuel pressure. So that way it'll be just a bolt on and go kind of deal. We can always drop everything down if there's ever a problem. So that's what we're going to probably end up doing. And then we're going to figure out a return line which goes back from a 6AN to a 1/4 inch line. So I got to do some research, see what we got going on there. And then we'll kind of go on from there. But right now, it's all about master planning of how this is all going to be. So we're just going to do this, just more complex for some reason, because that's what we do. So that's that. So we're going to take a break from installing this completely for right now until we get a fuel system figured out for that, and then we'll worry about the electricals after, because this is going to be the most time consuming parts, figuring out the fuel lines. So we'll get back to you when we get a plan and some stuff made up and go from there. Let's go. Alright, we got some updates. We had our gas tank dropped, put the new sending unit in. I gotta get a tool to try to drill up in a tight spot because I didn't realize it was that tight. Fuel pumps out. Now it's just a matter of trying to master plan something together. Get all that fun stuff together. Got the carburetor out. That's the fuel pump, as you can see. Yeah. We're starting to put in the fuel injections up here, which luckily it's either inlet or outlet over here. But we're gonna probably swap this line to this side and have this connect up into the front like that. So that way we can still reuse this setup. And then after that, we gotta get a new line that'll drop down possibly into like a 180 to have our line run back for the return line. So we're gonna have to figure something out with that. Not sure yet. But everything's coming together. It's all bolted on, ready to go. We need to shorten up the throttle linkage because it's currently too long at the moment. It's going to slide in, I forget where, somewhere up in here. But it's where it's going to go, and that's where the hole used to be for it. So it's going to come back pretty much where the nut is, if that's where the linkage is going to go. Not sure yet. And yeah, it's just a matter of trying to plug and play everything and hoping for the best. So let's go and finish getting some stuff tidied up, figure out what we need, and move on from there. So this is our markup. This is our conversion to, 3/8 line for a return, because the regulator apparently goes in the return line, so that's new to me. So we're going to cut this line, the silver one, right, probably about 2 inches above where the copper line's cut. And then we're just going to do these so we can drop it down. We don't have to, mess around with the gas tank. So we'll keep one longer, so we'll know which one's a return and which one's the feed line. So we'll go ahead and put these AN fittings on. It's these style that clamps on to the end of the metal lines here, and that turns that into an AN fitting, which has a metal brass that it squeezes and tightens everything. And then we can just connect these into there, so that way we don't got to worry about running metal lines anywhere underneath, because we're limited on space. But this will give us flexibility to, as you can see, it bends. And these are good for 3,000 PSI. Wherever I seen it at. Not that one, this one. Yeah, right there. 3,000 PSI. See it? Right there? So, those are definitely not going to blow off anytime soon. So, that's what we're going to do. Instead of having our hard lines running and then trying to figure out how to connect the fuel system to this, we're just going to put fittings to connect our AN fittings onto the hard line. Then we'll throw it all back in, throw it back up there. Should be good to go. All in all, this is the setup that you're going to have if you do it the way we did. Have to just resolder the new line in, zip tie it together, put your press fittings in, and then you just run your lines out. And then down here you can run them however you want them to be. So you can have them twisted around, going to the sides, up and over, whichever way you guys want to do it. That's that. Alright, so we got some stuff figured out. We got our feed line going into our fuel pump, and things just miraculously happened to fit, had extra fittings from the old setup. So luckily that worked. We put a normal 6AN fitting over here into our outlet of our fuel pump, or the filter. And then we have that going up to a 90, which we're going to eventually change out up there. Just going to disconnect it there, because we're going to have to pull this whole line all the way up there, back, connect it there to get rid of this little junction going on up here. So that way there's less fittings going on, or we're going to take the 90 out up there and connect it there and bring that down here to get this closer to be a little bit more out of the way from the rear end, just in case, kind of things. But we might try to do that. We'll see. We'll disconnect everything, see what kind of play we got, see how it looks, because I'd rather things look as clean as possible than as messy as can be. So that all lined up good. So that's a good start. That's, we're going to figure that out for the return line, which is going to be easy because it's coming back from the regulator, and it's going to be a straight shot, and we'll just run it all the way back like we did this. Have two lines coming back here, and also probably connecting it also right up there like that. So that'll pretty much connect in the same area as the feed line, just for our return line. And then I'll show you up in the front. Not really sure how I'm gonna, figure this out exactly, but this is the line we're gonna take off here, and we're pretty much gonna, we'll use as like another form of line, like possibly to connect from here to over there, possibly to the end, to the return side back in here. Just we'll have to get another 90 that connects to the 6AN line up here, and then just have that running to this, which we'll have to turn this clockwise. So that way we still have the gauge, since there's only one gauge port up here for our regulator. So we'll have that. So we'll turn it. We'll pretty much just have to return or put this line and flip it around and have that connect from the line coming from the carb for the return back over here. And then this will go back to this line up here that we'll have to have custom made to fit. stuff like that. So we gotta get that stuff measured out, and then tomorrow possibly even do some wiring on it after we get our measurements. Throw in the O2 sensor. And then for back here, also, since I don't think I have a spot in my block anymore for a temp sensor, since I have my main one here that I like to have a mechanical one at all times reading, I believe back here where this little shiny spot is, that would be for another sending unit. So that's where we'll plug ours in. That comes with the EFI system. To put that into that. And then just put the O2 sensor in, got the temp sensor going. That's really about all we're going to need. We'll need a feed for the distributor for the RPMs. We have to figure out two. I'm not sure which one that would be yet. Haven't quite gotten to it. But I got to do some reading, which we don't do much of around here, but that's okay. But for the most part, I got some stuff to hide a lot of wires, pretty much to also heat shrink them from the headers, stuff like that, fun stuff. So the tedious stuff, but so far it's moving forward. I'll show you this a little bit better. Pretty much I made little brackets up in there to mount to the frame, and I put rubber in there to isolate it so it doesn't rattle. Filter has custom brackets in it, so that way it doesn't move around on us. And then just the filter or the pump back here, I've got to get some lines made up, or some wires made up, which I might be able to just take the ones from the very back that were dangling back here by the fuel pump or the filter, see where those run at in the car. And I think when I did this car, I ran it along the floorboards and straight to the back, so we might be able to just bring them up and find a spot to run them out, possibly by the firewall, and bring it back and connect it here. So I think that would be what we do for that, and that's really about it. But all in all, it's moving on pretty good. Pretty happy with how it's looking so far, but the real test will be if it starts up for us. So it's a waiting game now. Gonna go get some custom lines made, get them made during the week, since they're closed on weekends, and go from there. But that's it for now. We'll catch you bright-eyed in the morning. Alright, so we're going to start off by, taking a little bit out of there, because it's kind of foolish. It's full enough to leak out the top of the intake. But all we're going to do is just take out enough, like that cock is, just take out enough to open up the intake a little bit. Okay, antifreeze is drained out enough, I hope, and we shall see if I make a mess. And this is, I have no idea what size this is, but I got, I'll tell you, 5/16 Allen key back here for my intake. We'll find out if this is the correct one I gotta take out. If it's covered in antifreeze, I hope. Sure as hell looks like it. Look at that. Wow. We are slowly getting somewhere. I believe that would be anti-free. Let's take one more little gander to make sure it's still the right spot. I think so. Right back down in there. Oh, nope. Yep. Sounds like it. So we're gonna go with it. I'm gonna find out where my new doodad is. Alright. So I added some extra Teflon onto this temp sensor because it was very thin on what they had on here, and I just want to make sure I don't have any leaks. So I put a little extra on it. When you do Teflon, you always want the end of your Teflon to be going with threads as you tighten down. So that way you're not just binding it up when you go and tighten it in. So I started pretty much wrapping it around this way, and that way I end up with it flowing with the threads. So when you tighten it in, it should tighten up pretty easy, or pretty nicely, and not have a bound of Teflon floating around. So that's what we're going to do. Just Throw it in here. Alright, sending units, or the temp sensor sending units in. Now we're going to refill our, cooling system. And don't worry, I already cleaned out my container before I used it, but I'm still going to strain it as I put it back in. So I put a paint strainer in there. And I'll collect all the very thick filaments, because it's a really thin micron filter that goes into that for the paint. So it'll filter out all the leftover dirt I might have not gotten, but it'll be just fine. I do this all the time and never had a problem. And then I'll re-top off with some fresh stuff, and we'll call it a day. And like that is where you collect a little bit of heavier dirt that gets in there, but nothing else comes out. So that's the suppose where you can get it until we get it started. Now we'll work on getting O2 sensor in, so that way it can read and do the magic stuff with the air and fuel that we got no control over. Let's go. Okay, this is our heat shroud. It's pretty much fiberglass with aluminum covering. We're gonna put this on our temp sensor or O2 sensor just because it's closest to the exhaust. Most heat's gonna see. Then we'll have this run up to the back of the engine, or near the back of the engine by the speedometer cable. And that's pretty much about it for the O2 sensor, other than plugging it into the wiring harness, and off we go. So I'm gonna go throw this in now, and we'll get onto the wiring. That's a DEI, Design Engineering Corporation. It's a heat shroud that you can get at most part stores. If you guys are curious, here's the part number that I've used. But I've used this on our C10, and knock on wood, we haven't had any problems with it, other than just protecting the heat. So, it worked on our last EFI, so it should work again on this one, no problem. So, that's that. Alright, so the plan is to, I'm guessing, mount it probably right about here, because I'm very short with how much space I have after the collector here. This side I have a really expensive exhaust clamp I'm not going to drill through, but I figure I can at least go through here. I should be able to put I can fit my clamp here, since I got a bigger exhaust system than what most people will normally have. So I think it would work out right here, and then I got a whole exhaust in the back, so that would be good for that. So I'm just gonna have to mark where I want the hole, and that's about the horizon. We'll mark it like right about there, I think. That way we can see where that's going to be. And then we're also out of the way of the engine heat, whatnot. And get a little brass, or a little hole punch to the center. Put that right there so we got a guide for a pilot. Then I'm going to grab a little drill, drill an 1/8 inch hole, then use a step bit and drill all the way out. So let me grab that real quick.
We got our anti-seize on our O2 sensor. I'm going to feed that in place. Tight fit. Put that there. And then we'll take our wrench. There's a wrench. 22 millimeter. We'll snug it down. Okay. And that'd be all that said. What I can do is I bought some it's like a heat shroud for this. So this is going to go up to the back of the engine. I could possibly even hook it to the back side of, I think it's our speedometer cable. So that way it's least likely to fall. But I'm gonna look at my heater up, put it on this, feed it up to the top. Yeah, that's pretty much it for underneath of this. Other than doing the extra fuel line, but we have to do our measurements for that, so that's next.
More updates. I am able to pretty much, recycle on this, but I'm not going to keep this line. But this is pretty much the correct length to go from my regulator to my throttle body for my return line. So this pretty much fits perfect. We got the main line going from the filter to the fuel pump. That's already measured. It's ready to be cut. New fitting pressed on like these. And then took just some, I don't know what you call this, like speaker wire kind of stuff. And ran that to my main connections, pretty much from the throttle body to the new part of my fuel pump here. So I got it run from that to that. So that's one of these. And then the other one is pretty much run from my regulator right here on the back side of this. I can clean this up a little bit. Got it running from that all the way back to the gas tank, basically. So we got both of those set, ready to go. So this stuff's ready to be cut, pre-fit, and got some new fittings. So I need pretty much a male adapter for that, like a female adapter for both sides to connect the return line. And then I need a 90-degree 6AN adapter for the very back to connect to the gas tank lines. So that's that. Well, I think I'm going to close out this video here though for now till we get all the parts together, so that way you guys can watch something. But that's gonna do for this video. I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe, leave a comment if you guys have any questions, or if you see something that's questionable, let me know. But yeah, that'll do for us, and thank you guys for watching. We'll get this thing running in the next video. Stay tuned.